Michael Nagy here with Jiggy Jag TV and DiscoveringBands.com. For everyone watching or shares video on my channel and help support the awesome bands I feature. And today I'm here with Sapphira Vee. How you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. It's great to have you. And I want to start off to say, how long have you been making music for?
Well, actually, probably longer than most people realize, because I started back in the 90s. And I was doing, electronic music back then with one other person, and we, had a 2-person band, and we were using like a DAT machine on stage to, to play the backing tracks and stuff. And then at a certain point, I got married and had kids, and just really didn't have time to do music the way I wanted to, So I just stopped for a while, for probably about 17 years or so, and got back into it around late 2018. But like everything had changed, in that time. DAWs had changed for the better. They became a lot more functional and a lot more affordable. So I literally had to rebuild an entire studio. I had to learn how to use like Cubase, and I had to learn how to use social media, because I really had only ever been on Facebook, with a personal page. And that had become such a huge part of doing music, currently. And it's like the main way we all sort of network and communicate and collaborate. So there was a lot to learn. And I didn't really start releasing anything listening worthy until maybe 2020, I'm going to say. So, it's only been a few years. Feels like just yesterday I started again. But when I look back, when I really started, kind of getting everything going from scratch, it was about 5 years ago.
Well, in 2018, what got you back into it after such a long break?
Well, my kids had gotten to the point where they really didn't need me to chase them around anymore. They were teenagers and had gotten to the point where they kind of had their own stuff going on. And so I kind of found myself with some extra time on my hands, and it had always been a goal of mine to get back into doing music. Once, I sort of had to stop. So it just felt like the right time. And what was really, really odd is, because I do a lot of interviews like you do for the radio show Situation 47 that I do with Melody Whore. And when I talk to other people about sort of their origin story, so many of them have the same story, where they just, within the past 5 years, they just kind of got back into it. And it was like this, honestly, I feel like it was like just this weird wake-up call for all of us. I don't know how we got it or what what the mechanism was, but we all kind of started, doing what we do again around that time frame. There were some people who I work with who've been doing music all along, like Jean-Marc Letterman, Martin King, with Dog Tablet, or Jim Marcus doing Go Fight. But I feel like that's more the exception. A lot of people, and especially women, because a lot of us just kind of gave it up to raise kids, just started getting back into it just around that same time frame, which is really, really odd. I'm not exactly sure if, I don't know, ultimately COVID had to do with COVID for the people that got back in 2020, or what it was, but yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because a lot of artists I've interviewed recently have said basically the same exact thing.
Yeah, it's very strange, but it's in a good sort of way. Like I said, it's this weird wake-up call that we all got, and we're all kind of scratching our heads trying to figure out why it happened at the same time. But this scene has just blossomed so much in the past 5 years, and it's become such a great place, a fairly safe place, where we all respect each other and we all work together. And so I'm just feeling really fortunate that I listened to that, that little call, that little voice, whatever it was, and just decided to, okay, I'm doing it. Just decided to jump back in.
I want to ask, what gravitates you to this darker style music in this scene?
Well, and that's funny, because I'm really not a dark person. Most people that know me will kind of tell you that I'm, a fairly optimistic person, a pretty happy, positive person. But for some reason, when I do music, that's just how it comes out. And I mean, it may be, a bunch of influences that I've had, since the 90s, like, bands like Depeche Mode and The Cure, some of the darker bands that I was listening to in my more formative years. And even like the industrial music that I was listening to back in the 90s. And I was definitely, and still am, a hardcore industrial fan, Wax Trax fan. But a lot of that music was like really dark too. So I feel like those are sort of my influences coming out, people like David Bowie, even some of his stuff, not all of it, but some of it is, on the dark side. So yeah, I think it's just, that's what I've always kind of gravitated towards as far as being a fan, and that's what comes out as an artist.
See, it's awesome. You just did a show at Area, and tell us about that.
Yes. So that was not in the plan for 2023. I was just going to do one more show, which I'm still doing in December in Rochester for a Krampus ball, which I'm really looking forward to because it's just this great, everyone shows up in costume. We're all wearing horns. There's goats there. There's rituals going on. It's wonderful. So that was my plan. That was going to be the last show of the year. And then I got a notified from the promoter there that they needed someone to open for, directly support ARIA in Chicago. And I live in Rochester, but I do spend a lot of time in Chicago. Jim's here and, so we kind of go back and forth. But so I jumped on it because I was going to be here anyway, to be honest with you. It was at Liars Club, which I'd never been there before, but it's a great venue. The people there are so wonderful with the bands that play there. Aria is just absolutely lovely. She and her band. We walked in there and realized that we actually knew half of her band because Mike Weimer's on drums and Eric Gottesman is on. I hope I pronounced that correctly, is on bass keys. So it was kind of, sort of felt like home. Biocarbon 13 opened the show. Sean Payne DJ'd. So we were just among a lot of great people. Good crowd, really good crowd, very supportive crowd. So it was just a great night. It was great. And I'm so glad I did it. It was one of those sort of last minute type things. We only had a couple weeks to prepare. But you have to kind of jump on that stuff when it happens. That happened also back in June. Again, I was planning on being in Chicago, but I got a call to open for IMX in Rochester. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I should do this, not ready for this. But I talked to my guitar player and he's like, let's do it. And I was in Chicago literally for my daughter, she was here for a summer program. And so I flew home and did that show. And I was really happy I did that because that crowd was fantastic. A lot of super goth people there just lining the front of the stage, and everyone was just decked out in their goth wear. And they were also very, very supportive, that crowd. Again, afterwards, I was like, oh man, I'm so glad I did that. Sometimes you just have to be prepared to sit in. There's only one show really that I had to refuse because my guitar player couldn't do it. But for the most part, we've been just taking those gigs as they come up because you got to take those opportunities, and it's great meeting people too.
Yeah, those are great bands to play with. It's like you said, you got to take the opportunities when they come. Yeah,
I feel very fortunate that I was able to do that.
Now, in Rochester, New York, how is the goth industrial scene there?
It's definitely better than it used to be. And I will credit Zach Burnett of Comrades. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's a Rochesterian as well, and he does promotion. Chain Smoke. Oh gosh, I'm so bad with my names today. But he has his own promotion company, and he's been bringing a lot of really great bands through Rochester. And he's been wonderful about, you know, having me open for some of them. He had me open for Empathy Test in October. So that was another great show. A lot of people showed up. They were absolutely wonderful people, Empathy Test, as well as Knight, who opened for them. So, you know, got to know them a little bit. And yeah, so Zach has been just bringing a lot of really, really great, you know, bands that we wouldn't normally, you know, see in Rochester, New York. For a while, it was really just kind of a barren wasteland. And we were all complaining, you know, like, no one comes to Rochester. And then, you know, he started bringing some bands through, and then another venue, Photo City Music Hall, the people that booked their bands started bringing some really great talent through. Like last year was Front 242. This year was Frontline Assembly. You know, we kind of caught them on the way to Cold Waves. And Curse Mackey, we just saw him a couple weeks ago. Curse and Rona, her project Sign, and I Speak Machine. I mean, these are the types of bands that, you know, a few years ago we never thought we'd see in Rochester. So, you know, feeling really, really fortunate that these shows are coming up. And actually tomorrow night, Area is going to be there as well. So yeah, it's actually starting to really spin up for us, which is wonderful, you know, because I'm taking full advantage of it right now as a fan and as an artist. You know, it's really inspiring.
Awesome. So you now, what are you working on music-wise?
At this point, with Fortune being completed, and you know, just working on promoting Fortune, getting remixes in for one of the tracks called Stand Together, and I should be releasing that hopefully in another month or so. I've got the remixes coming in for that. Great video that will be associated with that Jamarcus did for me. And that'll be premiering on YouTube in conjunction with, you know, the single and releases being released. I've been doing a bunch of remixes. Did one for Derision Cult that just showed up on their Mercenary Mixes CD. Just did one for Misfit Toys, one of the bands on my label Distortion Productions. So that I think is coming out in another month or so. I also did one for Chiasm, Emily Roan, who I absolutely adore, and I love working with her voice. So I think that's coming out soon. It's not the one that just came out, but I think it'll be coming out soon. So I will be working on a cover of a house track to help some of the folks here in Chicago, Jim being one of them, promote, I believe it's the 40th anniversary of house music. Hopefully I'm not wrong about that, maybe the 50th. I think it's the 40th though. So they've got a bunch of bands doing covers of house tracks, and I'm doing one of those. So just, you know, keeping busy with some of that. I also have a side project with Jim called Balallero, and we'll be releasing a single. We just debuted one of the tracks, that track actually, that we're releasing the single for at the Area show a few days ago. So I'm getting some remixes in for that one. So yeah, just, you know, keeping busy in between major releases. At some point I'll kind of, you know, settle in and start writing for, you know, whatever my next release is going to be at this point. But I have to kind of promote the one that I have out right now. So yeah, just having fun with all of that, whatever comes up, you know.
Wow. Definitely have a lot going on.
I love it. I love staying busy, you know, and doing creative things and just, you know, being able to play out. It's such a gift. You know, I never thought. I did my first gig about a year and a half ago. I did the first couple shows of the tour that Comrades and Ayatoya did together last February. I opened for them in Pittsburgh and in Rochester. And so my first gig in like 20 years was in Pittsburgh opening for them. And I was like, oh my God, like, can I even do this? You know, but it was honestly like riding a bike. You know, I got back out on stage and it felt so good. And I never have any performance anxiety. I have a blast. I just love it. I'm not even sure if I'm always in tune. I have my in-ear monitors. I mean, I think I am, but I mean, for me, it's more about just having a good time on stage and setting that vibe out there, you know? So, yeah, I never, ever thought I would be on stage again. And at that point, it just felt really, really natural. So I'm really grateful that I'm able to do that and work with some really wonderful people along the way.
Now, if people want to look you up on social media, get your music, how do they do that?
So yeah, on Facebook, I really have two pages. I have a profile page for Sapphira Vee, and then there's like a business page that's also Sapphira Vee, but it's all one word. I believe official Sapphira on Instagram. I also have a Twitter account that I'm really not using and probably will get rid of. So don't bother with that one because I'm just really not pleased with what's going on on X, Twitter, or whatever it is right now. But I'm also on Linktree. So all my links are on Linktree. My Linktree link is also on my Facebook profile. So there's a lot of different, YouTube as well. I have a YouTube channel, a lot of really cool videos out there. Videos from Fortune, the video I did with, the song that I did with Chris Connolly, Unknowing Muse, there's a video for that out there. That's a really cool video that John Whitaker did. So I think that's everywhere. Obviously, I'm out on Spotify and all the, streaming platforms. But if people want to get in touch, really just one of those other social media outlets.
So pretty easy to find you on the social media.
Oh yeah, I'm all over the place because I'm out there all the time, just thanking people and responding to people and just networking with people and telling friends how cool their pictures are and things like that. So yeah, I'm easy to talk to anyone that wants to reach out and chat on Facebook or something. That's cool.
Awesome. Well, it was great talking with you and having you, and everybody look her up.
Yes, look me up. Thank you, Michael.